The night Amina turned 65, she didn't light a candle, she didn't cut a cake, she didn't even tell anyone it was her birthday because after a while, loneliness becomes a habit and you stop expecting life to remember you. Outside, the rain fell hard, tapping the roof like restless fingers, and the small house felt colder than usual, as if the walls themselves were tired. Amina sat by the window with a cup of tea she wasn't drinking, staring at the empty street where no headlights ever stopped. Her husband had died 8 years ago, her son had moved far away and stopped calling, and the neighbors only smiled in daylight, never close enough to ask how she was really doing. Then she heard it. A soft scratching at the front door, not a knock, not a person, something lighter, weaker, desperate. Amina froze, her heart tightening. She waited, hoping it would stop, hoping it was only the wind, but the scratching came again, followed by a small whimper that sounded like pain. Amina slowly stood up, her knees aching, and walked to the door with careful steps, her hand trembling as she opened it. Cold rain air rushed in and her breath caught. A dog stood there, soaked and shaking, muddy paws on her doorstep, ribs slightly visible, eyes wide and tired. It didn't bark, it didn't run, it simply stared at her as if it had been searching for her for a long time. Around its neck was a collar, old and cracked, and hanging from it was a small metal tag. Amina crouched down and pulled the tag closer to the porch light. Her stomach dropped, because engraved on it were words that made her blood turn cold. "Please forgive me." Amina's throat tightened. She didn't know why, but those words hit her like a memory she couldn't fully remember. She reached out slowly, and the dog pressed its wet forehead into her palm as if it trusted her completely. Amina whispered, "Who are you?" The dog didn't answer. It only limped forward, one paw dragging slightly, and Amina saw dried blood near its leg. Someone had hurt it. Someone had left it here. And in that moment, Amina realized something terrifying. This dog wasn't lost. It was delivered. End of part 1. Ari Hook. Amina pulled the dog inside, wrapped it in an old blanket, but when she looked down at its collar again, she noticed something hidden beneath the tag. Amina cleaned the dog's wound as gently as she could, using warm water and an old cloth, and the dog didn't resist. It only trembled softly as if it had been holding pain for too long. She fed it bread and leftover rice, and it ate slowly, carefully, like it had once been trained to behave. That detail unsettled her. Stray dogs ate like they were fighting death. This one ate like it remembered kindness. After the dog finished, it didn't wander around the house. It didn't sniff corners or search for an escape. It walked straight into the living room and sat beside Amina's husband's old chair. The chair had been empty for years, untouched, like a silent monument. Amina's breath caught. The dog stared at the chair, then looked up at Amina. And then it made a sound, a low, soft whine, almost like a word trying to escape its throat. Amina's eyes filled with tears for no reason she could explain. She sat down slowly, her chest aching. "You knew him," she whispered, "didn't you?" The dog blinked slowly. Then it stood up and walked toward the hallway, stopping in front of a closed door. Amina froze because behind that door was her son's old room, the room she never opened, the room she kept locked because it smelled like the past. The dog scratched lightly at the door. Amina's hands trembled. "No," she whispered, "there's nothing in there." But the dog scratched again, more urgently, like it was begging her. Amina swallowed hard, reached into her pocket, and pulled out the key she hadn't used in years. Her fingers shook as she unlocked the door and pushed it open. The room smelled like dust and old memories. Amina stepped inside, and the dog walked straight to the bed, then nudged something hidden under the mattress with its nose. Amina leaned down and pulled it out. It was an envelope, yellowed with time. Her name was written on it, and the handwriting made her heart stop. It was her son's handwriting. Amina opened it with shaking fingers. Inside was a letter that began with only one line. "Mother, I did something unforgivable." Amina's breath caught as tears spilled down her cheeks because she hadn't heard her son call her mother in years. And before she could read further, the dog suddenly growled. Amina turned her head. The front door handle was moving, slowly, quietly. Someone was outside, trying to come in. Amina clutched the letter to her chest as the dog. Amina's legs felt weak as she walked toward the front door, her heart pounding so loudly she could barely hear the rain. The dog followed her closely, limping slightly, its eyes sharp and watchful. Amina stood behind the locked door, breathing shallowly, and when she finally spoke, her voice came out broken. "Who is it?" The voice outside answered softly, almost kindly, "It's me." Amina's throat tightened. She pressed her hand against the door as if she could feel the person through it. Who are you?" she whispered, even though she already knew. A pause. Then the voice said, "Your son." Amina's eyes widened and tears spilled down her cheeks instantly. Her son had been gone for 9 years. No calls, no letters, no visits, just silence, the kind that eats a mother alive slowly. Her hand trembled as she unlocked the door chain and opened it slightly. A man stood there, soaked in rain, older now, his face thinner, his eyes darker. He looked like her son, but also like someone else, like life had carved bitterness into him. He stared at Amina with an expression that wasn't love, and that broke her more than the years of silence. "Ammi," he said again, and his lips trembled slightly, but not with emotion, with exhaustion. "You have something inside this house." Amina's breath caught. "I thought you were dead," she whispered. Her son's jaw tightened. "Maybe I should have been." The dog growled low, stepping forward protectively. Amina's son glanced at the dog and his expression changed, like he recognized it, like he had seen it before. "Still alive," he muttered, "so you kept him." Amina's heart pounded harder. "Kept who?" Her son stepped closer, rain dripping from his hair. "That dog isn't random," he said. "That dog belongs to my past." Amina's voice shook. "Why are you here?" Her son swallowed hard, then said something that made Amina feel cold from the inside. "I came back for the house." Amina's eyes widened. "The house," she whispered. "This is all I have left." Her son's gaze became sharp. "No," he said, "this house has what I need." Amina's fingers tightened around the letter she still held. "I don't understand," she whispered. Her son's face twisted, like anger was fighting with shame. "You don't understand because you never knew the truth," he said. "Abu hid things, he hid money, he hid evidence, and when he died he left me nothing but debt and enemies." Amina felt her chest tighten. "Your father was a good man," she whispered. Her son laughed softly, but it wasn't happy. "You only knew the man he pretended to be," he said. Then the dog suddenly barked, loud and fierce, and Amina flinched. Her son stepped back slightly, eyes narrowing. "You have until morning," her son said coldly. "Give me what Abu hid or I'll take it myself." Then he turned and disappeared into the rain. Amina stood frozen in the doorway, shaking, while the dog stared after him like it was watching a ghost. And Amina realized something terrifying. Her son didn't return for love. He returned for revenge. Amina followed the dog into the bedroom, her breathing fast, her heart aching like it was breaking in slow motion. The dog scratched at one spot near the bed, pawing harder and harder until the wooden floorboard began to shift slightly. Amina dropped to her knees and pulled at the wood with trembling hands. The board came loose with a creak, and underneath it was a small wrapped bundle, tied in cloth and sealed carefully like someone wanted it hidden forever. Amina stared at it, her fingers shaking as she opened it. Inside were papers, old documents, and a small cassette tape. The tape had writing on it. It said in her husband's handwriting, 4AMINA, play only if he returns. Amina's breath caught. She held the tape like it was a fragile heart. She found her husband's old tape recorder in the cupboard, the one she had kept because she couldn't throw anything away. Her hands trembled as she inserted the cassette and pressed play. Her husband's voice filled the room. Warm, tired, and full of regret. "Amina," the voice said softly, "if you are hearing this, then our son has come back, and if he has come back, it means I failed." Amina covered her mouth, sobbing silently. The dog lay beside her, breathing softly. Her husband's voice continued. "I hid money once, a long time ago, money that was never mine. I thought I could escape my sins by building a peaceful life with you, but sins don't disappear, they wait, they grow. And they return through the people we love most." Amina's tears fell onto the floor. Her husband spoke again, quieter now. Our son was not born bad, he was born innocent, but I abandoned him when he needed me and I left him in a world that taught him cruelty. If he returns angry, Amina, it is my fault." Amina shook her head, whispering, "No, no." But the tape continued. Amina, her husband said, "I sent the evidence to the police, everything, names, accounts, proof. If our son harms you, it will be released. I did not do this to destroy him. I did it to stop him because he will destroy himself and you with him." Amina's breath caught. So it was true, her husband had planned this. Then her husband's voice became softer, almost like a prayer. "The dog's name is Bruno. I trained him to find you if danger returned. He is my apology. He is the only thing I could leave behind that still knows how to protect you." Amina looked down at the dog with shaking hands, her eyes full of tears. Bruno rested his head against her leg. And then the tape ended with one final sentence. "Amina, if he knocks, do not open the door with fear, open it with truth, because truth is the only thing stronger than blood." The tape clicked off. Amina sat frozen, trembling, staring at the papers in her lap. Outside, the rain suddenly grew louder again. And then she heard footsteps. Inside the house. Slow, heavy footsteps. Amina's blood turned to ice. Because her son wasn't waiting for morning. He had come back in through the back door. Amina stepped backward slowly, her heart pounding like thunder, her whole body shaking so badly she could barely stand. Bruno stood in front of her, teeth showing slightly, his growl deep and warning. The kitchen light flickered on and her son stepped into view, holding a small knife in his hand like it was nothing. His eyes looked empty, not fully angry, not fully human, just tired and cold, like he had lived too long in darkness. Amina whispered, "Why are you doing this?" Her son stared at her. "Because nobody cared," he said quietly. "Because Abu lived peacefully while I suffered, because I had to become hard just to survive." Amina's tears fell. "You could have come home," she whispered. "You could have come to me." Her son's lips trembled slightly, and for 1 second Amina saw the child she once held in her arms, but then his face hardened again. "Home," he said bitterly, "this was never my home." He stepped forward, knife still in his hand. Bruno barked loudly and lunged, grabbing the man's pant leg. The man kicked Bruno away and Bruno yelped in pain. Amina screamed, her voice breaking like glass. And suddenly something inside Amina snapped. Not into fear. Into strength. She grabbed a heavy wooden stick from the corner, an old broom handle, and held it up with trembling hands. Her eyes burned with tears, but her voice came out firm. "Stop," she said. "Enough." Her son stared at her shocked. "You'll hit me?" he asked. Amina's lips trembled. "If you make me," she whispered. "Yes." Her son's breathing became uneven. "You don't understand what I've done," he said. "You don't know what kind of man I became." Amina stepped closer, shaking but refusing to fall. "Then let me know," she said. "Let me carry your pain. I am your mother. That is my job." Her son's eyes flickered, and his knife hand trembled slightly. Amina spoke again, her voice quiet but strong. "Your father left evidence, everything. If you hurt me, it will be released. If you hurt Bruno, it will be released. You won't win." Her son froze, his face changed, his confidence cracked. "You're lying," he whispered. Amina shook her head. "I'm not," she said softly. "Your father tried to protect you from yourself, but you didn't listen." Her son's eyes filled with rage, but behind the rage was fear, real fear. And Amina realized the truth. He wasn't a monster. He was a broken child inside a grown man's body. Bruno crawled closer to Amina again, wounded but loyal, placing himself between them. Amina whispered, "Look at him, even after you hurt him, he still protects me. That's what love is." Her son stared at the dog, his breathing shaking. Then his knife fell from his hand and hit the floor with a loud metallic sound. He covered his face with both hands, and for the first time he cried like a child. "I didn't mean to become this," he whispered. "I didn't mean to." Amina dropped the stick and stepped forward slowly, wrapping her arms around him. Her body trembled, but she held him anyway. Because even after years of silence, a mother's heart still remembers. The air turned cold in an instant. Amina pulled away from her son and looked toward the kitchen doorway. Bruno stood up slowly, growling low, his body trembling with exhaustion but ready to fight again. In the open back door, a man stood in the shadows, tall and still, rain dripping from his coat. His face was half hidden, but his smile was clear. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for this moment. Amina's son froze, his face turned pale. "No," he whispered, "not you." The stranger stepped inside casually as if he owned the house. His voice was smooth and calm. "You really thought you could come back here and take what belongs to us?" he asked. "You really thought your father's little games could save you?" Amina's heart pounded. She understood immediately. This was not just about her son. This was about something deeper, someone bigger, someone who had shaped his life from the shadows. The stranger looked at Amina and smiled. "So this is the wife," he said softly, "the peaceful life Thomas stole." Amina's son stepped in front of her, shaking. "Leave her out of this," he whispered. The stranger laughed quietly. "Too late," he said. Then he glanced at Bruno with disgust. "And the dog, always the dog." Bruno barked, fierce even in pain. Amina's son suddenly turned to Amina, eyes full of fear and regret. "Ami, run," he whispered. But Amina didn't run. She stood still, her heart pounding, her hands trembling, but her eyes firm. She looked at the stranger and spoke softly. "The evidence is already sent," she said. "Everything, if you touch us, you will be exposed." The stranger's smile faded slightly. Amina continued, her voice stronger now. "You think you own people, you think fear makes you powerful, but fear ends the moment someone stops running." The stranger stepped forward, angry now. And suddenly Amina's son moved, standing fully between her and the stranger like a shield. His body trembled, but his voice came out clear. "I'm done," he said. "I'm done being your weapon." The stranger's eyes narrowed. "Then you'll die," he said coldly. Amina's son shook his head. "Maybe," he whispered, "but at least I'll die as her son, not as your slave." The stranger lunged forward, but Bruno attacked, biting hard into the man's arm. The stranger shouted in pain, stumbling back. Amina's son grabbed the fallen knife from the floor and held it up, not to kill, but to protect. "Get out," he shouted. "Get out of this house." The stranger stared at him, breathing hard, then looked at Amina with hatred. "This isn't finished," he whispered. And then he ran back into the rain, disappearing into the night like a shadow that finally realized it could be caught. Silence returned. Only breathing, only rain, only the sound of Bruno whining softly from pain. Amina dropped to her knees beside the dog, holding his face gently. "You saved us," she whispered. Her son knelt beside her too, trembling. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry I stayed away." Amina looked at him through tears. "You came back," she said softly. "That's what matters." The sun rose slowly the next morning, pale light entering the kitchen, touching the floor, touching the walls, touching Bruno's tired body. Amina wrapped Bruno in a blanket and held him close, while her son sat nearby like a man who had finally returned from war. Amina realized something in that quiet morning. Some people come back for money, some come back for revenge, some come back to destroy. But sometimes, someone comes back because deep inside, they still want to be saved. And Bruno, the wounded dog in the rain, had not only protected Amina. He had brought her son home. Not as a stranger, but as a broken human being ready to start again. Amina closed her eyes and whispered, "Pain can change a person, but love can still bring them back." And for the first time in years, her house didn't feel like a prison of memories. It felt like a second chance. Amina